I have to do. Salutations. My name is Grace Robinson, and I am a third-year dual-degree computer engineer. You can't hear? Oh, I'm on the mic. Oh. Salutations. My My name is Grace Robinson, and I am a third-year dual-degree computer engineer with a concentration in computer science and a minor in mathematics. I am here to introduce our keynote speaker, Yosef Abramowitz, the COO of Gigawatt Global Incorporated. He was nominated by 12 African countries for the Nobel Peace Prize for his climate justice work on the continent. Yosef Abramowitz was named by CNN as one of the planet's leading green pioneers and also serves on the Israeli President Herzog's Climate Forum. As a student, he led the anti-apartheid movement at Boston University and was privileged to serve with Coretta Scott King on the MLK Federal Holiday Commission. He comes to us today from Uganda via Jerusalem and can be followed at Captain Sunshine with a K on Instagram. With that being said, we will play a short video before he comes up to speak. Thank you.
Game changers, people pushing themselves, moving us all forward. They are the next scientists, musicians.
And I'd like to introduce her to everyone here for this Environmental Justice Summit. She is the Israeli Consul General, and she's here on our campus today visiting. And let's celebrate her, and we're going to introduce her formulas.
Good evening, everyone. We are joined by Consul General Anat Satan Dadon. Anat currently serves as Consul General of Israel to the southeastern United States, covering 7 states in the region. Those states are North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, Mississippi, and Alabama. Anat is in her, this is your 4th year? 4th year of posting here in Atlanta. She's dear friends of both Dr. French and Dr. Bacon French. And we're excited to have her here as official representation of Israel in the southeastern United States. Let's welcome her.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the kind invitation, and I am so excited to join you for this important conference. And of course, delighted that there is an Israeli speaker here, and I'm looking forward to hearing you. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
They are innovators, game changers, people pushing themselves, moving us all forward. They are the next scientists, musicians, poets, the next makers, dreamers, teachers, and geniuses. They are the next list.
It is the manifestation of our dream. So the revolution starts right here. Come on in. You can feel now the power of the sun. It's just obvious. It's just the most obvious thing in the world when you're in the desert. I thought we were going to build a solar field. Instead, we have to build the entire field of solar energy generation for Israel. I'm Yosef Abramowitz, co-founder of the Arava Power Company here in Israel.
Like a bulldog, you just put his teeth in something and he doesn't give it up until it is done.
Even if Israel were 100% renewable, we wouldn't have saved the planet. I can't believe it. I'm so excited. We thought the best place to start in Africa would be in Rwanda, 18 years after the genocide. Oh, Rwanda, I'm gonna let it shine. So it has to scale. It has to scale today because we're running out of time. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Hi, thank you so much. Consul General, friends, can you hear me? I'm deeply honored to be here. I want to thank President Dr. French and First Lady Dr. Bacon-French for your climate leadership and for putting this together. I come to you, as you heard, from Africa. I was in Uganda 2 days ago, and then yesterday in Jerusalem. And in Jerusalem is where we hosted the President and the First Lady where we broke bread together for Shabbat dinner. And we're hosting next Friday about a dozen students from Clark, Atlanta, in our home as well. So I'm going to have to scamper back to the airport right after this. I also want to thank Wendell. Everybody know Wendell Shelby Wallace? You have this uncanny ability to embrace new ideas, new programs, and bring everybody together to accomplish great and creative goals. So thank you very much for putting this together. Today, I had many invitations from around the world to celebrate Earth Day, and I had to change my schedule to decide to come to be with you here today. It's not only that it's Earth Day, it's what I call the season of our souls. We have this confluence of Ramadan. The Eid, it finishes, I think, tonight or tomorrow night. Passover, Easter, and Holy Week, all converging, reminding us that we're all children of God, of one God. What are we seeking? We're seeking meaning in our life. We're seeking dignity. We're seeking purpose. We're seeking community. And there's no greater threat to all of those things that we aspire towards and that we cherish than the violence that we're doing to our collective home, as Pope Francis calls Earth. And Earth, constantly reminds us that what we're doing to her is completely unsustainable in every sense of the word. You spent the last 2 days understanding the climate injustice here in Atlanta. In Georgia, I learned a couple horrifying things from some of the panelists before. I also did not know, and I now have the burden and responsibility to help you do something about it, if I can. But what we're learning is that all of those climate injustices is intertwined with a business-as-usual approach in our society. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. The rich can pay for their health to stay healthy, and the poor get sicker. There's power and there's truth in the teaching of Dr. King that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. To tell you the truth, it's a bit amorphous. It's a bit theoretical. It's part of my Torah. It's part of my sacred text. And I relate to it in a general kind of way. But I hope by the end of our time together this afternoon, you will accept my Earth Day-infused friendly amendment to Dr. King's prophetic poetry. The team asked me to share some of my own personal journey, because the students are here and online. And I was a scholarship kid at Boston University. I was a student activist there. And how did I get from there to be doing all this climate justice work in the Middle East and in Africa? And I do it in the name of climate justice. I also do it in the name of my people my faith community, my impact investors, my donors. I do it for you and my children. My dad attended the March on Washington in 1963. And the year I was born, 2 months after I was born, 3 civil rights workers were tortured and murdered in Mississippi. When I was 1 year old, my dad answered the call for volunteers to go to Mississippi, to go back to Mississippi, to register African American voters. And before he left, he wrote me a note, a goodbye note, just in case, which thankfully was never needed, and which is in my living room today. My mom was very involved in the Equal Rights Amendment, which I'm sure the students don't even know about, but we failed to get into the Constitution of the United States an Equal Rights Amendment for men and women. It wasn't ratified by enough states. But I remember her passion and just the logic and the justice of it. So this is the home that I grew up in. Energy. My first encounter with energy is my mom pulled me out of Jewish day school, Jewish parochial school for a day, and took me to Cambridge, Massachusetts. I grew up in Boston. And in Cambridge, everyone knows Harvard Square, but the next one is Central Square. And in Central Square, there's a giant old red brick church. And we go into the church, and we go down into the basement. And in the basement was the Communist bookstore. And we go through to the back of the Communist bookstore, and there's this velvet curtain. And you'd pull it back, and it was an organizing room. And I was the only kid being trained in civil disobedience against the Seabrook nuclear plant. There was all these grown-ups. And so by the time I graduated 8th grade, I had good foundation in my faith traditions, obligations, and visions. And I wasn't scared of police attack dogs or tear gas or water cannons. At Boston University, Dr. King's alma mater, for his PhD, I grew up in the anti-apartheid movement and in the movement to free Jews in the Soviet Union. Both were struggles for dignity and equality. And by the way, both looked insurmountable at the time, which is a good lesson for this next generation, because you keep hearing, one of the speakers said here, we're just talking about adaptation and not prevention, mitigation. And I disagree. It looks insurmountable, but we know we have some lessons from history. In South Africa, right, you had 35 million disenfranchised blacks controlled by 5 million whites. In the Soviet Union, we had 2 million Jews held hostage by the Cold War. And Hebrew teachers were put in solitary confinement by the KGB to try to break the religious and cultural spirit. And again, both of those, we weren't really going to win. We didn't think we could win, but we knew we had to fight it. I was really fortunate to be a student of Elie Wiesel the year he won the Nobel Peace Prize, and to be mentored by him. And I was also a student of Howard Zinn, a radical political scientist who got his start here at Spelman. And from Professor Wiesel, what I learned, and I think this is important and relevant, is that neutrality only serves the oppressor. Neutrality only serves the current entrenched interests. From Professor Zinn, who wrote The People's History of the United States, I learned to listen to the people who didn't have the privilege and the power to write the narrative of history, and that to listen to their voices and what did they need. And so, through whatever accidents of history, we won both those battles. Actually, April 27th is seared in my mind, which is coming up, because that was the date of the first free and democratic elections in South Africa. So we celebrate that. It's actually on the same day as Israel Independence Day this year. That's right. Congratulations, Consul General, and to all of us, 75 years. And I was fortunate to be a footnote in both of those struggles. But I learned a lot. And just because it seems insurmountable, if it's just, stay with it. Totally keep going and join forces. So I learned at a very young age what we call the Spider-Man principle, right? With power comes, yeah, I see that, responsibility, exactly, right? It's true. And you students, you have so much power, but it's kinetic, meaning it needs to be activated, right? But you truly have the power. And don't be afraid to test it. Don't be shy. Go out there and do it. Now, my wife and I, we just celebrated, which I can't believe, 30 years of marriage. We've been blessed by God in helping us make a family both by birth and by adoption. And so when my wife, who's a rabbi, myself and 5 kids decided to answer, let's call it a spiritual homing signal, and move from Boston to Israel, 17 years ago, it triggered my climate activist journey. Because where we moved to was a small kibbutz in the south, an agricultural, communal agricultural community, communal community, completely egalitarian. Dining room that's shared, one bank account for all 250 members. Everything is shared equally. Very interesting model. We moved there because I was a volunteer there 25 years later. And when we got there, it was August 24th. It was really hot, and it was really sunny. And I'm just hit with this vision of, oh my God, the whole place must work on solar power. And at that point, there wasn't a single kilowatt hour on any of the grids from solar in the entire Middle East. Now, this area, it's beautiful, third most extreme desert in the world. It's also the path of the Israelites. It says in the book of Numbers, V'chanuv b'Yotvatah. And they encamped at Yotvatah because there's water, actually there's still palm trees because of the extra water there. There's chocolate milk there, as you guys know as well. It's a kibbutz built on fortunes of chocolate milk. And so in our shared faith traditions, we know that sometimes visions and ideas that can be transformative can come out of the desert. And I was fortunate to live in this blessed community, to see the Milky Way every night, to see the hills, and to think anew. And what also happened is that there's an institute there, and some of you have already asked about partnership. And I want to connect you to the Arava Institute for Environmental Studies. Maybe the only place for Palestinians, Jordanians, Israelis, and international students, those of you who want to study. And your credits can all transfer to Clark Atlanta, by the way, and all of the universities in the consortium. We watched together Inconvenient Truth from Al Gore. And you're watching this movie, and it was just out, and the lights come on, and we look at each other, and we go, oh my God, what are we fighting about? What are we arguing over? You know, we actually have a much bigger common enemy and a common goal that we have to vanquish. And so the vision really was, little Israel, we've had to make do on very little. We're in a tough neighborhood. We don't have that many natural resources. But we have our people. And we have a spirit of innovation, which again, let's talk about how to do the cross-pollination, because I agree with what all the speakers said about that. But the goal for me was, how can we get to 100% daytime solar between the Red Sea, like the Passover story, Red Sea, to the Dead Sea, the lowest spot on Earth? And everyone said it was going to be impossible. Well, it took 5 years, and I actually did the first very modest solar field in the Middle East there. And when I did that 12 years ago, when I did that, something remarkable happened and very unexpected. People came from all over the world, particularly the developing world, particularly Africa. and said, hey, Startup Nation. So with that, I'll give you a little bit of glimpse. This is video number 2. Grace will come and do it, and I'll give you a glimpse of how to take a vision from one place and cross-pollinate it to another.
Power Africa, a strong and prosperous and self-reliant Africa.
From this mountaintop, we call on the United Nations to affirm that access to green power and affordable green power should be elevated as a fundamental human right for all of humanity and for all people.
I want to say thank you to Goza Shalom Youth Village for being our partners.
Never give up, my friend, you got me.
And with Power Africa, we commit to 1,000 megawatts by 2020. And what we can see from up here today for Rwanda and Africa and the world is hope. Thank you. Great. Team effort. I get a lot of credit, but we have a great team. So here's the story. President Obama, who understands Africa, said, look, 50 years of foreign aid did not lift the continent out of poverty. Maybe we should do something different. And their mapping basically revealed that energy access is the way to end poverty, particularly in Africa. And so he announced this ambitious program called Power Africa, and nothing happened. Because it's Africa, and it's infrastructure, and it's early in the climate movement, early in the solar business. And he was under a lot of pressure from the Republicans in Congress. And who's my friend from COP6 on? So we were going into COP21 in Paris, which was a sort of a key inflection point. And Copenhagen failed beforehand, because in Copenhagen, the rich nations woke up and said, we shouldn't burn so much stuff. You too, you poor countries, you shouldn't either. Cut it out. And the poor countries justifiably said, wait a second. You guys just burnt your way to prosperity for 100 years. Who are you? Who are you? So we had this clash, and Copenhagen failed. I wasn't there, but she was. We needed a new model, a third way, not an either or, going into Paris. And so for the first time, we were able to separate out emissions growth from economic growth. And so you saw in Rwanda, it's the first utility scale solar field under Obama Biden, and supplying 6% of the country's power, and that's been the model for all renewable energy projects throughout the continent. So somebody needed to show that it was possible and that renewable energy is not just for the rich. And the truth is today, it's cheaper than all other form of power. And so it's especially for the poor communities and the poor countries. We did Rwanda, and I thought, oh, this is going to take off like crazy. Rwanda has rule of law, no hint of corruption, good ease of doing business, good friends of Israel. It's one of the, we got their vote in the Security Council. And look, there are people who survived genocide. And the president wanted to take his people both figuratively and literally from darkness to light. And unfortunately, we had that experience, and there was a natural trust, I would say, and common purpose. So Rwanda was a good place to start. But the truth is, there aren't any other Rwandas, really. And what we decided to do is to go to the poorest country in Africa, which is a country called Burundi. According to the IMF, the average per capita per year is $274 per year. And everyone said, like they said in Israel and they said in Rwanda, this will never work, you won't succeed. So I have a little bit of an announcement to make. You're all invited. What are you doing May 9th? If you'd like to cut the ribbon with the president of Burundi with us on a solar field that's supplying 10% of the country's power, come on down, come with me. And so, so because we're in one planetary ecosystem, and this is key, right? A factory in China, cars in Atlanta, right? Anywhere in the world that there's emissions, it's affecting so many other parts of the world, in particular Africa. Africa is only responsible for 4% of the world's emissions, but is getting clobbered. Poor people in Mozambique, the cyclones, the supercharged cyclones going through. You should see the effect on crops and livestock in East Africa of these biblical plague-like droughts that are just decimating, right? It's extraordinary. It's the level of destruction and negative impact is heartbreaking. You have wildfires in the US. We had wildfires in Israel. There were wildfires last summer in Siberia because of our cars in Atlanta, in part. No, I was happy to meet Beth, and I think you guys will do it, and we're happy to help you figure out how to get to net zero. So this notion of interconnectedness, to me, is a kind of theology. And so I want to declare here from this podium at Clark Atlanta the following 3 statements. Climate injustice anywhere is a threat to climate everywhere. Climate injustice anywhere is a threat to life everywhere. And so the solution is climate justice everywhere is the only way this planet, this embattled planet, can sustain all 8 billion of us equally and with dignity. So I'm here to bear witness on the interconnectedness of our struggles and our challenges and climate injustices. But I'm also here to bear witness to the interconnectedness of the solutions. And I have 2 examples that will hopefully hit close to home at Clark Atlanta. The first is that your president and first lady just came back from a state visit to Ghana with Vice President Kamala Harris. I'm going to tell you a little secret. The genesis of the United States goals on climate came about in a conversation with a certain junior senator from California and a future second gentleman at the same Shabbat table where your president and first lady broke bread with my family. She came in thinking of running for president. We were honored to host them, and they were gracious and intelligent. They did their homework. About a third of the conversation was on climate. And she said, "What do you think the goal should be?" I was like, 100%, baby. like, why are we even having this conversation? And she said what everybody says, which is what they said about the anti-apartheid movement, right? Impossible. There's no one who actually believes it can happen. So what's your backup goals? I was like, I don't remember if I called her senator. Now you have to say vice president all the time. I was like, well, actually, I have something to tell you, which is that the region from the Red Sea to the Dead Sea is actually the first region in the world to hit 100% solar. She's like, what? During the day. And she goes, oh. But it means in 2020, we were at 50% renewables, a decade ahead of the UN goals. And I told her, in 2025, we're going to be 100% day and night. She's like, wow. And so when you looked at the platform of Biden-Harris in the elections, it exactly matched the goals we discussed, which is a 50% plus reduction by 2030 and 100% by 2035. And so the interconnectedness of solutions, right? You never know what a small kibbutz in the desert, in the biblical desert, can help bloom. I have another example, which is that there was a representative from Georgia Power here. Well, in 2012 or 13, I'm sorry I don't have it down, the governor of Georgia came on a trade delegation to Israel with the CEO of Georgia Power. They asked for a meeting, and they said, look, we launched a solar program, and it failed. Can you guys come in? I was like, no, I'm busy like in Africa. We want to do it with Africa, with Palestinians, with Israel. They're like, no, we really got to do it. I don't think they cared about climate, by the way. I think it was more a little bit of greenwashing. And they said, we want you to bid. And I said, I don't do bids. I only do direct deals. I was like, no, you have to bid. You have to bid. So we put in a bid. It's a blind bid. And there are, I think, 350 bidders. And we won. And so somebody here mentioned Brunswick, right? Before, I guess terrible things happen all over the place, including there. But the first solar field in Georgia that used what's called the avoidance cost, we built 22 megawatts at the in Glenn County. And it was so nice to see then the candidate, Warnick, point as an example of Israeli infusion of capital and know-how into the Georgian economy as a positive example. And so there's an interconnectedness as well to solutions. So just as I submit to you that climate injustice anywhere is a threat to human life everywhere, I also submit that we cannot reach the UN climate goals unless we resolve the issue of climate justice, whether it's here or in the Middle East or in Africa. And I'm going to give you two examples from my own region. I'm fully cognizant I have an official representative from my government here. But here goes. In Israel, we talk a big game on climate tech, and for good reason. But we're not great players. Even though I got the South to be 100% during the day, the country itself is a bad actor. for many reasons. Little American company called Chevron, thank you guys, controls our energy policies. But one of the reasons they give is that we're a little country. We may not really have enough land. Land in someone was talking about the inner cities. Where do you put all the solar? We're a little country, and land is an issue. We have plenty of land. It's in the south. It's in the desert called the Negev. It's where Abraham, our spiritual father, dug wells. It's right there in Genesis. But there's a third of the population are nomadic, poor Bedouin Arab tribes. And you know what? Most of them don't have the land rights. We have not settled the issue of justice and land justice with our Bedouin citizens of the state of Israel. And if we did, that would be the only way we can get to 50% renewables because of the land, and we can get to 100% renewables as a country. And what we know also from Africa, when you settle land rights, you bring economic development. So we're looking to work with the current Israeli government, and I'm in touch with Minister Chikli, my friend, who's in charge of social welfare, and we've built a program for him, and hopefully we'll have climate justice in the south of Israel soon as well. I'll give you another example from my region. Look, politics aside, there are 2 million Palestinians in Gaza. It's a coastal, very crowded strip with very little water, very little access to power, and they're essentially being held hostage by Iranian proxies who also pay for the missiles. I wouldn't need a safe room in my home to run to when there's a siren. That's the guest bedroom. I know Flo uses it, but anybody else who comes to stay with us, you'll see it. If Iran didn't have oil revenues to pay for missiles, from extremists. And so we know from the Gulf Wars, trillions and trillions of US taxpayer money that did not go to the Atlantas, right? It went because of the oil, right? Oil is the power of war. Solar is the power of peace. No one's going to fight over sunshine because it's accessible to everybody. And so I'm not going to tell you a secret. I can't confirm or deny that Gaza's first solar field is about to be interconnected any day now. And I can't confirm or deny that our Palestinian partners couldn't have done it alone. Climate justice transcends borders, lifts dignity. By the way, if they have water and energy, I think there'll be fewer rockets, or maybe no rockets, right? So to the students, because I came for you and you guys on the Zoom, the world that you're inheriting, that you've been born into, is unfortunately divided according to race, class, ethnicity, right? Religion, gender, nationality, and more. That really hasn't gotten us far enough as a civilization, as a species, or as a planet. For us to win the climate battle, for us to literally save the world, the future has to be built on the foundation of urgent and true understanding of our deep spiritual and physical interconnectedness and interdependency. Climate injustice anywhere is a threat to human life and justice everywhere. So the gift of this summit, and again, I want to thank the President and the First Lady, is that it takes the climate crisis and it puts tangibility onto Dr. King's prophetic words. We now understand what does it mean, theoretically, that something, a universal principle, actually matters somewhere else on the planet. And when we understand that, we're a step closer, a big step closer to being able to solve it. So if anybody here does end up in Jerusalem on a Shabbat evening, and I'm not in Africa, you are hereby invited to Shabbat dinner at our home in the footsteps of your leadership, some of the United States government's leadership. So have a meaningful and inspired Earth Day. God bless and shine on. Thank you. Want to do questions?
We'd like to know if anyone in the audience has any questions for Mr. Abramowitz, please.
Yosef, not Mr.
Yosef.
Oh, he said Yosef.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing all of your insight and your experience with us. I'm really interested in the May 9th trip to visit the solar farm, so would love more insight into that and if professionals were also extended that invitation.
All right, well, first you need your yellow fever shot and your malaria pills. That's the first thing. The organizers have my contact info. You have to pay for your own way. But we'll take care of all the arrangements. You got to get a visa in advance. At 9:30 in the morning, we're starting at the Presidential Palace for a roundtable discussion with investors, with the president, and then at 10:30 we're going over to the solar field in Mabuga, and then the King's drummers are coming out. There used to be a kingdom before all the colonials came and got rid of the. They're going to perform, and then we're going to be launching the solar field. I do want to thank the Biden administration. We're completing a 70% refinancing to the Development Finance Corporation, so it is your tax dollars, but you'll make money as a country, as a treasury on that. So be in touch. You can also follow me at Captain Sunshine. Send and what do you call it? I am a DM. Yeah, okay, a DM. My daughter runs my social media, so I have no idea. But just be in touch. Come up to me afterwards, and we'd love to host you.
Are there any other questions? Oh, Dr. O?
Dr. O.
Well, this is not a question. It's just a comment to act as inspiration for my students to follow the same footstep, just like Nia just mentioned. It's very, very inspirational. When you are doing design, you have to have a purpose. And the way you weave everything through the journey you took from Boston and finding the purpose with the Power Africa one during the Obama administration, because I was in Addis at the same time with Secretary Muniz when we were talking of the mini-grid. But once you put things that you are doing into action, then you see all the necessary support. Just for the sake of my students to know that those things are possible, things we conceptualize, but they have to push the envelope to make it happen. Thank you for the inspirational talk. We're going to partner. I was telling Dr. Marshall, in a way, we have to take the opportunity. Ravena, you're hearing me? So we need to tap into those. It's not spiritual per se, but there are some power hidden in when you step forward with faith, things begins to happen. And I know things don't happen by accident. Today is ordained the way it is, and welcome again to CAU. All right, thank you.
So thank you, Dr. O. So look, I can't make any promises, but I don't know if there's any money in the Inflation Reduction Act or in some of the USAID budget, but if you want to lead an engineering students climate tech tour to Israel, or if you want to give us interns, I'm very happy to talk about partnering with Clark Atlanta on those things.
So before you run away, I want to say Felicia Davis with the HBCU Green Fund, and I want to share that we have micro projects across 14 countries in Africa, including Burundi, and we're supporting small climate, youth climate advocates that are doing actual projects. So our criteria is you have to be actually doing something that relates to climate adaptation or mitigation and improves the community. And so we do have a person in Burundi, also a person in Rwanda. Typically, we have a lot of tree planting. We're just back from taking AUC students to the Sahel, where in 4 days they planted 103 trees. And we are working with the eco-villages on the border of Senegal and Mauritania. So there are some of us in a small way that have to hook up with what you're doing in a big way. And I can't say how much I appreciate the focus in Africa. And so my question is, I get starting in Burundi, I totally get Rwanda. And I want to know, Nigeria is obvious, but in terms of, I'm thinking of desert, and so I'm thinking of the Sahel, and I'm curious about what plans you have for that strip that spans the continent.
Right, thank you for the question. And I did not know about those projects. There's a women's cooperative, by the way, in Burundi that is in the area that we're in. They've asked for tree planting. And they've also asked, they want to do productive use of power for tiny, small micro businesses. And if we want to kind of crowd in, like I don't know what your next projects are, but I have people on the ground, and the projects are more likely to succeed because we already have kind of a base from which to work. So I'm happy to connect about that. The Sahel is this desert region from Djibouti all the way to Senegal. And desertification is just, it's not even creeping forward, it's galloping forward, which is also making way for a lot of extremism, right? Like what happens is people come in, and people don't have food and don't have water, and someone says, I'll give you food, I'll give you water, but here's a gun, right? So it's a very, very dangerous situation. Because we're U.S. Power Africa, I get to do things in countries that maybe officially the State of Israel can't be involved with. Two of those countries are under sanctions. I was the only Israeli invited to the White House African Leaders Summit in December, and some of those countries were not there because of the military coups. There's a training course now that a group called Desert Tech in the south of Israel is running, and it was an online course for entrepreneurs in the Sahel. And then they actually, even though they didn't have diplomatic relations with half the countries, then they were just in Israel 2-3 weeks ago for an on-hand training. And I think the second semester is about to open up, and you can apply online. It's called Desert Tech. It's through the Mirage Foundation. And wherever we can try to work together, let's totally do it. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you again, Yosef. Let's give Yosef another round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you, Grace. And to Grace.
And our student moderator and the rest of the student moderators from today. Let's give our scholars a round of applause. I just want to harp in on one of the points that Yosef made, and that is the interconnectivity of everything. Today's conference, our summit was designed with intentionality and connecting three major components, and we're very thankful for you tying those three things in for us. And not just from a lens of being here in the United States, but both our president and first lady have a strong focus on internationalization of the institution, internationalization of education. And this is a climate justice, environmental justice, environmental equity is something that we see as being important, not just here, but Clark Atlanta views our place in the world, in what we need to be doing with environmental justice. So that's what today's summit is all about, and we thank you for doing that. We're going to ask everyone if you'll come up so that we can take a quick picture with the speaker. And we have a gift for you on behalf of Clark Atlanta University. Everyone doesn't have to come up at once, but we kind of do have to come up at once, and then we'll move into our next session.
If I can, just have a footnote. If we can have Dr. Lucas, Dr. O, definitely the consulate general here. We just wanted to get a quick snapshot here, and then we can get the group photo. Is that okay? No problem. On behalf of Clark Atlanta University, Yosef, on behalf of Clark Atlanta University, we wanted to give you this small, we know you're a coffee drinker because when you came in, you were drinking coffee, right? Yeah. We got you a fresh pot of coffee, as a matter of, so we wanted to give you a coffee mug with Clark Atlanta University in it. All right, just as a small token of our appreciation.
Go Panthers!
Yes, yes, go Panthers for traveling so far.
I will think of you each time.
Absolutely, so we appreciate that. No problem.
So
you want the backdrop here or you want on the stage? What's your preference?
We should have the backdrop.
Okay.
We can move it over if we need more room.
We're fine.
I can also stay so you can do it at the end of the...
We're going to go ahead and get it now.
Okay.
Sure, no problem. Put two on each side. While we're taking this picture, please feel free to take a restroom break. We got plenty of food in the back. Again, that jerk chicken is back there for you along with snacks. So please, by all means, and then we're going to take a group photo.
reminded me of elementary school.
Testing, testing. Okay. Yes, we are moving right ahead. If everyone in turn, we're going to in turn kind of summarize, if I can get everyone's attention. We're going to summarize what we talked about. We're going to take about 5 minutes, and then we're going to come back. All the 3 different areas will in turn break up into groups, and we'll come up with a position statement. That's what we're going to do. Someone asked a question or made a comment. What are we doing and why are we here? Well, we're here to come up with a position statement related to what we believe when we talk about environmental justice. So that's going to be led by Dr. Turner. So again, by all means, if you're falling asleep, we got more than enough coffee back here, a lot of caffeine, chocolate, everything, okay? So we appreciate you being here. We are Panther Proud.
Did you give them a break? Did you give them a break, or are we going in? Oh, okay. I was about to get started. Okay.
Greetings, everyone. As you are aware, we had a contest going on from the service project yesterday, where the students, and I'm going to let a couple of them come up and tell you about it, but where the students were able to make a bag from old T-shirts, because I'm going to let them share this too, what they learned about colonialism with clothing and how much waste there is. And so we have to learn to be creative about how to repurpose things that we have so that we're not adding to the landfill. And I think as we're moving forward, we can take some key takeaways that we can do individually, right? We can do collectively, but we all need to individually commit to making a difference and making this earth sustainable, because we are borrowing it from our children and our children's children, as Mr. Blackman shared with us. So I would like some of the students to come forward that made the bag. After they explain to you their bag, and they can bring it up and show it, we'll announce who won, because they're anxious to learn. And then we're going to get into we're just going to take about 5 minutes for that, and then we're going to get into what we came here for, and that is creating together our next steps and strategy as to what will happen after we leave here. Okay. Would you like to get your bag, or you just want to?
Yeah, I was going to ask one of my group partners to get, wait, Naeem.
You can start with the information that you guys. Okay, that's fine. Okay.
So I was given, yeah, Grace went to get it. You can, Naeem, you can explain our bags. Yeah, or you have mine. Explain your bag.
As we are getting started gathering the items for the students to share, I just want to remind you that all they had to work with were T-shirts and scissors. T-shirts and scissors that did not cut very well. So what they were able to do from that was pretty incredible. So they are going to explain the concepts behind their designs quickly.
I'm gonna go first. Okay, so we this is our beach collection. So we call this bag right here. This is the part of the ZL collection. Zoe Landers is our designer. We all engineering students, so you know you can't do too much on this, all right? Okay, so but we only had a shirt to work with. But with the shirt, we made a beach bag. We looking for our wallet to go with it, but we don't see our wallet. We had a wallet that had, oh, it's still hung up. Okay, we got our wallet too. Hold up. Okay, we got a wallet too. So, you know, we got our wallet. Our wallet got a pocket for cash and change, and you know you can put the card accessories inside, and it go right there in the beach bag in the pocket. And not only do we have a beach bag, but we have beach clothing. So we got, that's the top. It go over, you know what I'm saying? And after the top, we got the bottoms. We're not gonna show the bottoms right now. And then we also have a cover up to go over the bottoms, because you know it show a little too much sometimes. Oh, the cover up hung up too? Yeah, they took our cover. They took our cover up. Y'all, I think y'all sabotaged us to win.
Thank you for sharing.
Yes.
Go ahead, explain your concept for us.
So my concept was just an everyday functional bag. We have fresh fruit drawn on it, you know, when you're out at the market, supporting your local Black businesses. You can put your fresh produce in this bag right here. There's also a hand crocheted water bottle holder. We're all about functionality and convenience. And so yes, and you're on your way. Thank you.
Hello. So hey guys, my name is Nate. I'm a psychology major. I'm a freshman here at Clark Atlanta University. And with my bag, I went for like fun and love. So it's not really like for functional use, but more so for style and to have fun. So art is about fun, so I wanted to have fun with this piece. And this is what I did. I got patches on here of hearts. I got words that say peace, love, and hair grease. And yeah, the size, a little color. It's about fun.
Hand drawn and hand colored. Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Christian, and my bag was basically for fashion purposes as well, because, you know, I'm a fashion major. And it was basically just about my own personal brand. That's why I added the K in the pockets as well. They're not, you can't use the pockets, but like I said, it's for fashion purposes. So, you know, just repping myself as I walk around with whatever outfit I want to throw my bag on, because it's pretty neutral. So it could be an everyday bag or just, you know, to spice up an outfit or whatever. So yeah, that's my bag.
Thank you, Christian. We had a long discussion yesterday about being your authentic self, so I love that she has her own brand to stay authentic.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Joy. This is my bag. I drew a picture of a skull on it. Got a little creative. It's kind of cute, if you ask me. I don't know. That's how it looks
Skull
on.
I've ever seen.
You know, nice little gray and black color scheme. Pretty simple. On the back, I have a pocket. Indeed. And then out of the scrap fabric that I had left over, I made a little top, like a little strappy top.
Also with hand-drawn art.
I also drew a butterfly. That's it.
So, this bag tells a story. It also matches my outfit today. This bag is a story of perseverance. You know, here at Clark Atlanta, either we find a way or we'll make one. Well, yesterday when we started this activity, we had shirts and scissors that didn't work. And so halfway through the project, I gave up, and then my good friend James, a student scholar here at Clark Atlanta, came in, and he finished off the bag. And so he did it with simplicity. If you notice, I did these cuts, though. I started off with the cuts for the handle. This was actually a pretty therapeutic activity for me, right? It didn't require a lot of energy, minus the scissors. So if you have a good pair of scissors, it won't take long. It took all of less than 5 minutes to really get things done. So if you have some old T-shirts at home, I really encourage you to make some tote bags out of them. You never know. And craft glue. And I also learned yesterday that craft glue and fabric glue are the same thing. So if you ever don't have fabric glue, just use some regular Elmer's glue.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate those.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say we appreciate those wonderful explanations. We wish you could have heard all the concepts before you voted. Maybe that would have made a difference, but we are really proud of our student work and also the learning that we did yesterday about decolonization and sustainability.
Drum roll, please. Hold on. Okay, keep a little bit louder. Oh, okay, there we go. Third place.
With 10% of the votes, we have number 9. Who had number 9?
Who had number 9? Okay. Is it still up there?
Oh, yes, this is the green bag.
Oh, the green.
Green is good for the soul on one side, and then on the other side, you can't really see it, but it has a smiley face with all the fringe at the bottom. So this won 10% of the vote.
And she was the last person that came in, by the way. She literally was the last person to come into the competition, and hers was done in 5 minutes.
All right, so for our second place with 14% of the votes, yeah, get that drum roll going again. Yeah.
Number 1.
That was Nija's design, the green bag. Hold it up again. Oh, you hung it up. Okay, so you see it hanging up there, the green tote with the hand crocheted water bottle holder. Thank you, Nija, for your creativity. All right, and another drum roll. So for our first place winner for our student upcycling competition,
Oh, they're not
with
here.
35% of the vote.
Number 11.
And that is Zoe's design.
What is the line? The ZL line?
Oh, the
ZL collection. ZL Beach collection.
ZL Beach collection. Thank you all for participating, and you can actually take your bags this time. We want you to keep them. And one other thing to kind of sum up our activities yesterday, we started off the day planning for a career closet at CAU to be sure that every student on campus has access to professional attire. Thanks to a seed grant from Capital One of $1,000, we plan for the career closet, and we will hopefully launch it in the fall. So we did a lot of planning. We let the students tell us what they wanted in their career closet, what kind of items, how we can sustain this, how it should operate, what kinds of guidelines should be involved. So we will continue to work on that beyond yesterday, today, really this week. And now we can come forward to think about today. All of the panelists, the speakers, the guests, and all of you here that were able to enjoy the dialogue, the discussions, and contribute. We want to sum up some key takeaways. We want to know what you got out of it, and also to kind of prepare to pull together our final positions. So we will go through and collect your key takeaways based on the session. So we'll spend a few minutes doing that, and then we're going to get into next steps. So first, key takeaways from today, and then later we will talk about next steps. We've got some note takers around the room to help us out with this. We've got Chavez over here, one of our Bonner student leaders. Excuse me, Bonner servant leaders, thank you.
And we have Kayla Coleman, a dual degree engineering, chemistry, chemical engineering major. She'll be taking notes on my right side. And this part takes everyone's participation. The first part is the key takeaways, and we'll go in order of the panels themselves. So we started with health disparities, and we have 2 people with microphones as well for whomever would like to share. So we need a key takeaways for the health disparities panel today.
And if it helps you to have a question in mind, how can HBCUs lead in achieving health justice and overcoming health disparities? So how can we lead on this? What key takeaways do you have? Who wants to kick us off?
So I would like to say one of the key takeaways that I found was whatever it is you have chosen to do, there's an equity angle to it as it relates to energy, climate, and health disparities for Black and brown communities. So whether it be fashion, whether it be engineering, there's always an equity side to things to make sure that things are fair and just for all people.
Thank you. That's a great one. You all have that?
Yes, thank you. You capture that?
Oh, yeah.
Sum it up real quick.
Okay. anything you do, there is an equity angle for things to be fair and just for everyone. How was that?
Perfect. And what you said just made me think about kind of like why we're here today and how HBCUs can lead. You heard from students in engineering, psychology, fashion. We really wanted this to be an event that has something for everybody on campus. And I think that really kind of sums up her point about, you know, there's something for everybody here, especially when we think about equity. There's an equity angle in everything that we do. And so we should always keep that in mind.
Yes, thank you for that comment. My biggest takeaway is that the HBCUs aren't going anywhere and that we have to stay connected. And it just makes me think about the HBCU initiative at the Biden level and how he wants to, you know, be able to pour into HBCUs. And so what better way than also including environmental justice and sustainability. So that was my biggest takeaway, is that as long as the HBCUs across the board, the health institutions like Morehouse School of Medicine, Meharry, right, we had representation from folks that are doctors, like this is what they study, this is their livelihood. And so I think I'm just really inspired by their leadership and also that charge to stay connected to HBCUs no matter where you go.
Yes, excellent, thank you. It looks like they are capturing that one. Who else has a health justice, health disparities key takeaway that we want to capture in our final positions for the day?
And this is the real critical piece of it, the interconnectedness that that our speaker, Mr. Yosef, talked about, is critical to us creating the solutions that will actually work. So we want to hear your voices. Thank you.
You ready? Okay, we got one more.
Maybe mine is both a takeaway as well as a solution. You know, when it comes to our communities, it doesn't really matter what we are focused on, whether it's health, whether it's, you know, affordable housing or green energy. For us, by us. No one understands our needs greater than we do. So we have to be the CEOs of the companies that are making the change. We have to groom the next policymakers and continue to strengthen the leadership and growth and support of our HBCU community.
You all hear that? Okay.
For
great.
us, by us, yes. Yep. Any other health justice key takeaways that we want to be sure we capture before we leave here today?
Ready for climbing? Okay.
Next up, we are going to share some key takeaways from our climate justice panel or climate justice session. Who wants to kick us off with climate justice?
The climate justice session. That was with Dr. Alati Doye. We're just looking for feedback from the climate session. Key takeaways.
Hello.
It's on.
We're just looking for key
Oh, it is
takeaways
on.
from the climate session.
I have a key takeaway. Oh,
Wait.
Dr. O's talking.
I'll give you the mic. Someone's talking. Go ahead. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
My key takeaway was understanding the intersectionality between climate change and economic status, housing situations, and sex, gender, transportation, and race.
Okay, so intersectionality and understanding the issues.
My own key takeaway is just to make sure that after today, everything that is being said will be actualized. And for those that were present, they should know how to duplicate themselves among their mates, like classmates, and project what really occurred here. I know things were being recorded, but word of mouth is also very great. It's just to actualize what have already taken place. And thanks to each one of you again.
To make it into a reality. Okay? Thank you.
So actualization and turning our ideas into a reality. Yeah, that's going to be key for our next steps discussion. And so we have actually
Energy.
any more climate justice takeaways before we move forward? Okay, wonderful. So the next one, and also if you are joining us virtually, you can share your comments or your key takeaways or your ideas or next steps as a comment or as a chat feature, and we'll be sure to collect those as well. So our next session is the energy. Yes, it's getting to that point in the afternoon where we need some energy. So our energy session. So key takeaways when we think about energy justice and how we can overcome energy burden. Who wants to kick it off? Go ahead, Naeem.
Oh, okay, there you go. So we were saying that knowing the key players in your area and the decision makers and stakeholders, meeting with leaders and, taking advantage of the different types of opportunities that are presented to us.
Oh, that was a lot. So
making
knowing
sure
the
we get our
decision-makers.
legislators involved. Yes.
Knowing decision makers, knowing who the key players are. I'm just recapping for our note takers. So know the decision makers, know the key players, be able and ready, always ready to take advantage of opportunities. As they say, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. Okay, so we've had a lot of networking opportunities just in this summit. Hopefully that everyone has been able to take advantage of, because we are ready, we know the key players, we know the decision makers. What other climate justice takeaways from today do you want to share?
Mine is just to think globally, be a global citizen. Yes, we are residents of America, but there's still 1 billion people throughout the world that don't have access to energy and electricity, and are facing lots of disparities. So we are global citizens.
That's a great reminder. Thank you. Naeem, can you come forward with the mic for Ms. Davis? Okay. We are global citizens, and we need to be thinking globally, not just about justice here in America, but global climate justice.
So with that, going from global to specifically Africa, because Clark Atlanta has a special relationship with Africa, that this new EJ Center initiative would serve as a resource for local communities. And that one that I didn't get to say that I think CAU can do is to track Justice 40 resources. So as a research initiative that falls in the social justice and environmental justice arena, tracking what happens with this Justice 40 commitment. And I did the backbone anchor, and also being a hub for green energy fellows.
Okay, so being a hub for green energy fellows, that was the last one, making sure she captured that.
Focus on Africa.
She started off discussing having a focus on Africa, and then that middle point was to be able to track and keep track of what's going on with Justice 40, the metrics, and I would even add holding them accountable for doing what they said that they would do. So focus on Africa, measure the impact of Justice 40, and then the third one, resources for local communities and being a green hub. Yes, yes. And the idea of the O building, we want to capture that or recapture that into our notes. Other climate justice takeaways. Okay, we've got the mic coming to you.
Yes, in the back.
The mic is on the way.
Good afternoon. Aaron Davis, Hartsfield Jackson. I just wanted to lend some insight when it comes to the infrastructure development. And one thing to add to the conversation is to ensure that there's equity in the development of these initiatives. So when there's funding and projects, to ensure that, kind of in line with Justice 40, that you have equity amongst those that are implementing the projects for these communities. That make sure they have representation from those who that they're building for.
Yes, yes. Thank you for that reminder. That also kind of brings us full circle from where we started. There's an equity angle in everything, is what Naja was saying. And now you see, we don't just want to measure equity after things get implemented, but we want to be sure we're thinking about equity at the start, at the outset. When we bring leaders to the table to ideate and come up with new ideas, we want to be thinking about equity at that point. And so that's also key for me as a researcher, to be ethical and equitable in the work that we do, and beginning with the end in mind. So we want to start with equity. It's not an afterthought, okay? We want to start with that. Yes. Yeah, then you won't have to clean up that mess. Other climate justice takeaways? Last call for climate justice takeaways. All right, one more?
There appears to be an opportunity to create more student programs to allow them to participate, as Yosef discussed.
Yes, that's also bringing us full circle to taking advantage of those opportunities. So there is an opportunity to create more student programs, to do that networking, to get more students involved, and all students, so students from all backgrounds. I've had a chance to talk to different people about their internship and fellowship opportunities, and when you think about the environment, it's not just for STEM. All right, this planet is for all of us. So we need sociologists, we need political scientists, we need psychologists, we need artists, we need fashion majors at the table when these decisions are being made. So yes, thank you for that reminder.
And one last comment on the panel that I was on, they mentioned legislation and getting in contact with the legislator, your local senators, everyone from local city to your state to federal. If you could reach out to people as students and provide public comment or be able to even sit on a board. I know in Oakland, I've actually just gotten interviewed to be on the city planning commission for the city of Oakland. And I'm really excited to be able to take on that responsibility if given the opportunity. But you can do that as a student. You don't have to be a professional. Like I mentioned in my spill, having the youth voice and folks that are, going to be building up the next generation of infrastructure, we need to be at the room and a part of that conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely. Being part of the conversation. I see, Ms. Davis, you have your hand raised, but her comment just reminded me about thought leadership, and you don't have to be a doctor, PhD, MD to write an article in the school paper, to write a newspaper article, to, write for an online outlet, to get your voice heard, your priorities heard, your thought leadership out there. And I know through working with HBCU Green Fund that we've been able to kind of support and do some training for other budding thought leaders and how they can get their voice out there. So that was something that reminded me of some of the work that you do. So go ahead, please share.
Make sure they got that on the list, because that was an important one. And I'm shifting a little bit to ideas or recommendations going forward, and along the thought leadership line. Since the day was kicked off with the First Lady of the institution, I think it's an opportune moment to push for Clark Atlanta to maybe declare a year of sustainability with a fall symposium that would bring thought leaders to the campus as a way to invigorate the First Lady's vision and bring not only some of the people that were here only had moments to share, but to actually have symposiums through or lecture series that would go throughout the year. So just specific takeaway.
Yes, so when we thinking about takeaways, if you captured that was the idea of having a year of sustainability where we could have a fall symposium where thought leaders would gather on campus to continue the work that we've begun today. I think that was a great way to kick us off in thinking about next steps. Yes, yes. So this summit was designed to be consciousness raising, awareness building, really an introduction to environmental justice, climate justice, health justice, and energy justice. And we know that there has been decades of work done in this field, but we wanted to really kind of reinvigorate the thinking around HBCUs and environmental justice. And so when we think about, where do we go from here? What are the next steps? What are the solutions? How can we continue to have these conversations, stay engaged, stay involved, and have our students lead this movement with us and for us? So what ideas do you have for next steps, takeaways? What would you like to see come out of this first summit?
I remember you all talking about a cohesive fellowship program where everyone worked together to support the students and getting involved. A cohesive fellowship, environmental justice fellowship program. You had a mic? Okay, thank you.
A national HBCU Green Fellowship that spans energy, sustainability, behavior, etc. But this would be the hub that spills out. Yes. And then another one, since I have the mic, Dr. E mentioned Clean Energy Culture, which is an organization, but that whole kind of hip-hop, green marketing, creativity, energy. So I don't know, Clean Energy Culture got the tag, but.
Were you guys able to get that, the clean energy culture, to bring it to the students from a marketing perspective? Yes.
One question as well as potential opportunity. One of the things, when I worked at Clark a little over a decade ago, we received a Department of Labor grant, and the grant was to identify new curricula for HBCUs for the emerging markets. This sounds like, especially listening to the panelists in the energy sector as they talked, it seems like we have a huge opportunity, if it doesn't already exist, it may be here already, to create a sustainability curricula degreed program, because I'm not aware of anybody doing that at this moment.
Curriculum degree program.
Yes.
And I hope you captured the first part of that as well, just thinking about education and curriculum. That reminded me of something that Alexis said about Sankofa. And knowing that environmental justice is not new, all right, like I said, we are reinvigorating here, but it's not new. We have the Environmental Justice Resource Center. We've had, courses taught, I can only speak for sociology, but, we've had courses taught on urban sociology, environmental racism, and, environmental justice and sustainability within those courses. So kind of bringing that back to the forefront. And the rich legacy that I mentioned before, the First Lady talked about this concept. Is it a well-known concept of environmental justice? And, the thoughts were mixed on that. And I feel like in name, maybe not, but the concerns have always been the same, to have healthy and safe and clean communities. That's not new. All right, so if we can go back, reach back and pull like some of those ways that, Du Bois was studying our communities, and all along the way, the Environmental Justice Resource Center and Dr. Bullard's work, pull that work forward. All of the work that's currently being done you know, we can all integrate those things. So it doesn't have to just think about, you know, what new thing we can create. What about all the things that have been created, the things that were working in the past, things that work in other places, and bring them back to the present? Yes.
You could add multidisciplinary to that.
Any other last takeaways from really at this point, any of the sessions, thinking about climate justice, energy justice, health justice, and environmental justice overall, next steps that you want to see, solutions that you would like to implement, and where do we go from here? I see we have one in the back. Do we have a mic back there? Yes, excellent. That is a excellent point to make about how we get this information out and really utilizing the platforms to meet students where they already are. That's a good, excellent point. And we've got one more.
Yeah, so I just want to put a fine point on both my comments about being a global citizen and also the comment about curriculum and maybe combining efforts to have summer study abroad programs where students are able to maybe come and visit some of these power plants that you're building and maybe be able to be a part of the process of construction, community outreach. There's so many different components. So maybe developing something like that would also be amazingly beneficial to the students and everyone involved.
Yes. Yes, I see them writing furiously.
While we're passing the mic, I wanted to add something that did definitely come out of this was the clothing closet from the service project yesterday. There's a Capital One grant that's the seed money to get that started. So the fun project that you heard the students talk about, that is going to realize into a clothing closet to house business attire for students if they need it. And to meet that need.
I'll speak real quickly. Just to piggyback off of what Nia said, the curricula has to be global to be relevant, especially in the sustainability realm. And what we learned today was that, you know, the opportunity is not just to create an educated population in sustainability, but to create more African American businesses, again, for us, by us. When we develop in our communities, we understand our needs greater than anyone else. So having that curricula lead to entrepreneurship as well, because we're there, we're in that space. So just expand our presence.
Okay, so again, I have a very specific one, and I think that everyone that took time out during Earth Month to spend the day with Clark Atlanta ought to be invited in some way to continue to support the initiative. So some sort of formal invitation that everyone may or may not take advantage of. But if we spent a day, we're probably committed and especially committed to Clark Atlanta. So I'm going on record saying that everyone that came, including students, should be invited to be on board for the long haul for the work that comes after the rhetoric.
Yes, that is an excellent reminder, and similar to what we had in mind about why we wanted you to register so that we could have your email address and stay in touch, and because we are grateful for your commitment to be here today and yesterday, and especially if you were here for both days. So we appreciate your commitment, and while I express gratitude to you all for being here, I was also reminded of something we were talking about, curriculum and all of the initiatives here. I also want to thank CAU-TV. When my research about the Environmental Justice Resource Center, I found out that they were producing documentaries working with CAU-TV in the 90s and early 2000s. So, you know, we have so many partnerships at play, and I'm new here, so I don't know, you know, all that has happened before, but, you know, that's been incredible to see, and thank you all for being here today to help us out again. by producing this event and being sure that it's accessible to more people for those that couldn't be here today. So thank you to CAU-TV.
Thank you all. Yes.
Any other notes that we didn't capture that you want to add? There are markers on the easels on both sides of the room. You are welcome to add your own ideas and additions, if anything that you didn't get to say today. Thank you.
Let's give our participants another round of applause. We've had a great day today. Wow. You take a look at some of these comments, they are phenomenal. And again, we're going to take the opportunity to in turn capture all the comments, and thank you, Fabian, for your comment, so we can in turn develop a position in terms of where we are as it relates to the three areas of health disparities, climate, and as well as energy. I'd like to bring up our Vice President for Institutional Advancement, Chief Advancement Officer, Dr. Richard Lucas. He will in turn be introducing someone who we near and dear to our hearts. That's going to be our president. So if you can, Dr. Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. Taggart. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for your participation in this inaugural Environmental Justice Summit here at Clark Atlanta University. We really appreciate all of your time today, and it was a wonderful, wonderful day. And for those who participated online, thank you as well. To our sponsors, again, thank you so much for your support. To our keynote speaker, let's celebrate him again for his time and wonderful insight about investment on the continent and the coining of the notion of solar power is power peace, and the oil is the power of war. And so we appreciate that sentiment. I really love that as well, and looking forward to opportunities to possibly take you up on your offer to come visit there as well. Looking forward to your support of our students as they come to Israel as well. So thank you again for your time today. To our students, let's celebrate our students and all that they did today as well. And we had a special visit by the Consul General today. Let's celebrate her again. We appreciate her time and being here as well. To all of our participants, thank you so much. I know it was a long day, and we are calibrating this event for the future, but we love all of the participation. We were excited about the insight provided and what we learned today. So everybody, please join me in welcoming someone that has transformed this university. His leadership has been second to none. He is working so that this university extends itself across the globe, and we are so excited to have him bring this great summit to a close. Who is that? It is no other than the president of Clark Atlanta University, Dr. George T. French. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you.
Yes, let's give him a round. Come on, guys. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you.
Yes, let's give
Thank
him a
you,
round
Doctor.
of applause. We really celebrate him and respect him for his time and being here today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Lucas. What an energetic greeting. Thank you so much to Vice President Lucas, to our cabinet members that are here with us, and members of the senior leadership team. Most certainly to, as you just mentioned, Anat Sultan Dadan, who is with us today in the back. Thank you so much for being with us. Good to see you as well, Flolo, and for the opportunity of sharing, Wendell, that we had, as was mentioned earlier, with my friend Yosef. So good to see you again, and it was a pleasure to share Shabbat there in Israel, and we look forward to visiting again very, very soon. It's been a magnificent day, as I'm understanding. My wife was here this morning. My apologies. In absentia, she is in Birmingham today. She is, and I'm very, very proud, she is a graduate of the Alabama School of Fine Arts, which is one of the top schools in the nation. And she is the first now African American to chair that board of trustees. So that's what she's doing today, and so I'm here doing our thing, and she's there doing the work of the school. So thank you for being here today. It's been, again, an invigorating day. I'm looking at the T-shirts and swimsuits and those things that the students were able to make out of there with their creativity. I'm looking at some there to the left as well. One of them looks like a swimsuit. That one on the red, I'm not sure about that, but congratulations. My wife and I returned from Togo. We were there with Dr. O and as a guest of the president of the World Bank. And we had the opportunity to meet with the president of the World Bank extensively, as well as with the University of Lomé. Dr. O stood toe-to-toe and head and shoulders actually above his colleagues at that fine African university. Thank you, Dr. O, for making that visit with us. And it was in furtherance of collaboration. It was in furtherance of Clark Atlanta University partnering with the University of Lomé, which is an institution of some 100,000 students. And while it's a large institution, as are many that we partner with, including the University of Johannesburg, we partnered with them as well, 55,000 students. But these large universities, while they're large and they're meeting the needs of a lot of the population, the fact of the matter is we know that by 2050, that Africa will be the most populous place for young people in the world. And the fact of the matter is there is no educational infrastructure in place that will meet the needs of university students. So we are offering ourselves as the experts in higher education, as we know that with the percentages of HBCUs that we have within our nation, but the large proportion of graduates that we have in STEM and all fields, we've been doing this for a long time, and we do it very well. As a matter of fact, I was engaged in some of the displays to my left. When you look back there, you have a letter announcing that on Tuesday morning, we will meet as Morehouse and Spelman and Atlanta University. We'll meet at Sisters Chapel. That's what it says. And W.E.B. Du Bois will be the speaker. I mean, can you imagine that? Just engaging Du Bois, who was a faculty member here for 24 years. Can you imagine engaging him? That's what we do. That's who we are. We are leaders within this higher education space, and we have been since 1865. 1865. We've been on the cutting edge. We were established in September of 1865 when Appomattox Courthouse surrender was in April of 1865. Come on now, 5 months. 5 months. And can you imagine what it is to start a university 5 months after the conclusion of the Civil War? Who do you recruit? It was just illegal 5 months ago to get an education, so you haven't been going to school. So you don't have your high school diploma, your elementary. So that's why we had to go to the North to recruit students, free blacks from the North that had been educated and had some degree of education from the North, but not university education. Only until Atlanta University arrived on the scene was there any HBCU in the nation that provided graduate education. That's who we are. And that's what we celebrate. And that's why I thank you all for this Environmental Justice Summit, because we understand that the confluence of what happens in our community with our health and racial inequities, the confluence of those is where we find environmental justice. And we celebrate, and we call the names of those like Dr. Bullard today. We celebrate those in the field who are committed to this work. And I celebrate my team who pulled this summit together. I thank you for your vigor, Marshall Taggart, and for bringing everything together. And Dr. Chardre, to your team for always being so collegial. And he looks like he hasn't been through much, but we just returned from an executive leadership retreat last night. We had been there since Sunday, and I worked them pretty hard, but we had a good time. But thank you for being back on grounds today. But let me be honest with you now, Anat, while I worked them, I take good care of them. We didn't go around the corner to the Holiday Inn. We went to Lake Oconee, and we took good care of the team. And I want you to know that that's what I believe in doing, is taking good care of my team, because you all deserve it, because you all are professionals par excellence. So I say thank you. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Thank you for sponsoring $10,000 levels, Volk, and thank you. We had sponsorships all the way down the line to include our partners, the radio station, and all of our partners, the television stations, and everybody who made this day a success. I simply want to say thank you. I plan to give a six-minute greeting and closing, and I think I have about 5 minutes and 30 seconds left. Just joking. Thank you all so much. We appreciate you.